Our next lesson on the sociology of crime and deviance is going to look at white collar crime, middle class crime. Before that, I look at these questions on Marxism and crime. I know what to do. If you don't know the answer, look at the previous video. So, white collar crime, middle class crime. Call the definition or definitions of white collar crime is the important bit here. White collar, blue collar, middle class, working class, your job. Okay, basically pretty straightforward. Let's go. So, let's imagine you are a company selling tanks to the army. In fact, the company makes that tank, company makes that tank, another company makes that tank. Yeah. Somebody who works for the government has got to decide which tank to buy for the army. If this tank company gives him some money toward that tank, even though it's rubbish, that's a white collar crime. Yeah. He is taking a bribe, white collar crime, and it's linked to his work. So the work on this was first done by a guy called Edwin Sutherland, and he just talked about white collar crime. He invented the term as opposed to working class blue collar crime. So crimes committed by the working class at work, middle class at work, are called white collar crime. As the years went on, people thought, no, we need to do some more work on this. We need to specialise a bit more, and that was the work of Slapper and Toombs. They said, look, we've got to split white collar crime into two types, occupational and corporate. In occupational crime, the person committing the crime directly benefits. So if this bloke here takes £1 million from the company making that tank, he is benefiting. That is occupational crime. If somebody is the manager of a bank, and every Friday before they leave to go home, after everyone else has left, they steal £500 from the bank, and they do that every week for 10 years, that's an occupational crime. They benefit from it. Now, Slapper and Toombs said much more important than that, and lots of Marxists think this as well, lots of Marxists go for this, a much more important type of crime is corporate crime. The crime that benefits the company. An organisation commits a crime. So back to this one here, he's committing occupational crime. The company is committing corporate crime. They're committing a crime, giving him a bribe to benefit their company. Yeah? So, for example, when the tram crashed, the tram driver went to prison. However, the tram company they weren't charged with manslaughter because those people died. But you could argue, well, why hadn't they fitted some software on the tram so it couldn't go too fast around the corner? The answer to that question is it would have cost money. Why had the tram company had the tram legally designated a bus, not a train? It's a bus legally, not a train. And because it's a bus, it had different glass, and the glass broke, and lots of the injuries and deaths were caused by the glass. If this had been a train legally, it would have had to have different glass that wouldn't have shattered, wouldn't have broken. And yet, people who run the train company didn't get in trouble for it. That's a corporate crime. If a big company pumps chemicals into a river to get rid of it because it's cheap, that benefits the company. That's a corporate crime. Yeah? So how come we are less bothered about these crimes? Well, these crimes are usually not detected. We have large groups of people committing them, especially corporate crime. The company's doing it. Large groups of people. It's hard to detect. It's victimless. Nobody gets hurt normally. Well, that's rubbish. A few years ago, the Smiler ride in Alton Towers had a terrible accident. These two people lost their legs. Yeah? That's a corporate crime, you might argue. They didn't run the system properly. They didn't train the people running it properly because that would have cost money. And as a result, these people lost their legs. So it's far from victimless. Fear. We are not afraid of these crimes. These crimes don't involve violence. They don't involve anyone being threatened with a knife. And lastly, media and legal system, particularly to the Marxists. The media is owned and controlled by the bourgeoisie, so they don't really report on these crimes. They don't think these crimes are important. If somebody is prosecuted, the legal system tends to treat them legally, so leniently. So, for example, if you commit benefit fraud, you are likely to go to prison. If you commit a much larger tax fraud, your chances are you'll be asked to repay some of the money. So look at this. In our country, benefit fraud costs us about £500 million a year. So a serious crime. There are thousands of investigations and there are thousands of prosecutions. However, tax fraud costs at least £6 billion, could be way more than that. There are maybe 100 investigations per year, not thousands, and there are maybe 30 prosecutions per year for tax fraud, even though it's a much bigger, much more serious crime. Now, to a Marxist, this is clear. That's a crime committed by the working class. Therefore, it gets hammered. That's a crime committed by the bourgeoisie. Therefore, it's ignored. That's it. No, sorry. Last example. In 2009, loads of MPs got in trouble because they were fiddling their expenses. They were claiming money. Famously, this MP was claiming thousands of pounds to have this duck house built in his pond. There were 650 MPs, 389 of them had fiddled their expenses, claimed money they shouldn't have, stole money. Some of them had to repay the money. A few of them got prosecuted. They mostly didn't. To a Marxist, that's a clear indication they didn't get in trouble because they have all the power. They have hegemony.